Okay, so introduction screencast. If you look up here, you guys were all given a copy of this draft 2 template. You can type your essay in here. You don't have to figure out how to format MLA style, which is actually pretty cool. It's awesome for you guys. So your formatting's done. You just have to fill in the blanks, essentially. And I tell you where everything goes. So your attention getter. What you want to do, I highlighted here. What you want to do with your attention getter is you want to tie your theme to a piece of figurative language that you come up with. If you read the very first sentence, we are comparing, defining yourself, defining a sense of self to mixing oil and water, right? That's a metaphor. You want to develop a metaphor for your attention getter. This isn't freshman year. You don't just have to do this in one sentence. You can do this over the course of a couple sentences. If you look up here, there are 2 sentences. Develop your metaphor. For your background information, again, this isn't last year. This isn't freshman year. The poem is set up in a way that allows the reader to understand what's going on in the context of the poem without actually having read the poem. So what you want to do in the background information, you want to set up the author, the title of the poem, what's going on in the poem, some context about who the author might be as a person, and you want to kind of get at theme a little bit, right? You want to talk about each part of the poem we've got in the beginning, in the middle, and at the end of the poem. What's going on in those parts? So that way, if I hand this poem to this essay to a stranger, say, hey, read this, they have some context, they understand what's going on without actually having read anything. And then last, always the last piece of your essay, always, not the last piece of your essay, the last piece of your introduction paragraph is going to be your thesis statement. You're always going to have the author, the title, the modes of analysis, and the thematic statement. If you do a good job setting this up in the background information, stylistically, you don't have to mention the author or the title of the poem, as long as it has been mentioned before. Here I did this just to reinforce the idea. So if you want to get to a point where you can make some changes stylistically, you could say the author uses characterization and diction and characterization in her poem to prove that young readers, their own sense of self comes from their parents' identities and their own decisions. That is fine if you want to write something like that, as long as you have the author and title of the poem written in the background. If you do a good job with your background, you can get away with it. But if you don't, then you have to have the author and title. So I'm done talking for the period.